Hey guys, it's Rockersk08. No intro video this time. I'm taking on a behind the scenes journey on my December 2025 road trip from Phoenix, Arizona to the San Francisco Bay Area with an interlude in the Los Angeles region. So this is a holiday trip for me as I go up to visit family, but you'll get to see some behind the scenes footage of stuff that I took that may not appear on my channel right away. I'm going to go through the process of how I plan for a road trip and what happens during the road trip as well as during the trip itself. So get ready for a long one. This trip is also significant because it is the first time I am taking my new 2022 Honda Civic Si for a spin, replacing my 2014 Nissan Sentra. I've had gripes with that vehicle over the years, so it's nice to have something with a little power and a 6-speed manual transmission. Oh, how much I've missed that. But it's also nice to have that modern infotainment screen system so I can take calls and actually see where I'm going at times. So it's a great vehicle to have. So a full drive from Phoenix to Oakland, which is east of San Francisco, closer to where I'm staying, is over 11 hours and about 750 miles. I'm not doing that in one go, especially in the winter, so I chose to break it up into 2 days. I chose to go to Los Angeles for the first day and then drive up to Oakland on the next day, especially since I was choosing the 101 instead of the 5. Here it is. My large main Manfrotto tripod supports the Sony AX53, a large, wide, flat base at the top, and then is supported by the older Rockersk tripod with a smartphone and a tripod adapter and a microfiber cloth to prevent the imprint on the seat, and then my Sony AX7 on the floor there. So it prevents the tripod from tilting back mainly, which is a problem from taking off. I don't encounter any tilting on the sides though. A custom dash cover on the front, along with 2 microfiber cloths to cover the vents. So I don't really need the one on the right though. And then I have glass cleaner and microfiber cloths to clean. You don't see me clean because I can't run my camera and clean at the same time. But I do this at every stop whenever possible to keep the glass nice and clean. I use 2 microfiber cloths, once for the initial polish and 2 to dry it. So right away you can see I have the tripod set up in the front, and it was a bit hard for me to get in there, especially as I'm getting a little bit older, but this is the general layout. Now, it may look like that the camera is pointed really high compared to the rest of the car, but this is actually okay because I'm trying to cut out the front hood without zooming in. You can compensate for this by just pointing straight and zooming in, and you'll be fine. The angle is wide enough that you'll probably be okay. Working with the Flip Ultra HD way back when I started, which had a much narrower field of view, this is far easier to work with. So unfortunately, I have no way of recording this process safely while I'm driving. I'm not going to be moving around my phone, but setting this up is actually quite simple. So as you see there, as soon as I flip the LCD screen open, it turns on, and I flip it like that so I could see it. I'll hear the chime in advance. So usually I'll have that in place, and then I just tap the record key, I'll hear the chime again, and then boom, we're recording. And then I'll usually split the clip every so often, about 15 minutes between on long trips when it's flat. And then when I'm done, I hit the record key again, and then I'll just flip the LCD screen back and close it. I'll hear that camera shutter close as a result. So that is actually pretty simple. And honestly, the recording part is very easy for me. Taking pictures is a whole nother affair, but this is very, very simple. Now for this video camera, I usually use 128GB memory cards. If I set it to the max 100 megabit setting, I get a little over 2 hours, whereas at the 60 megabit setting, I usually get about 4 hours or more. I use the 60 megabit when I'm going between cities, such as on most rural interstates, and then 100 megabits for really important urban areas. I could just use 60 all the time. It looks sharp enough, but I really like to have the higher quality there. So, and as you see there, I'm using batteries in this case. Those batteries get about 2 hours on average. Now, it is a little hard for me to change those batteries during stops because I have to take the plate off completely. So if I wanted to avoid that, I could just use an inverter with the AC adapter that I have, which is a viable option. I've done that before, but I just have a habit of using the batteries. And it paces me and allows me to take a good break between because I need to take my breaks every 2 hours or so. I just can't sit in a car for that long. I carry all of my memory cards in this little lower pro case that I got from Best Buy. It's small, compact, very reliable, and it holds a bunch of cards with their cases. So I've been very happy with this one. So primarily I use the 128GB full SD size cards for my Sony AX53. I have the Extreme Pro and Extreme Pluses in their cases, and these have been very reliable overall. I label them with a Sharpie marker on the back, A and B, so that way I know which one I've written to and just write to them in order, so that way I wear them out evenly. I have the bigger 128GB Extreme Pros. I didn't realize they were different by a little bit. I misread when I bought them. And I have the Extreme Pluses, the slightly slower, but they all work the same either way. And then I have the 64GB models, the Extreme Pluses I use for my NEX7. I also label those A and B. And those I really don't fill up much with the pictures at all. So it's been very good overall. for when I need to write them, I have this little adapter. I forgot what brand it was. I think it was a Best Buy brand. It was a Platinum. It has both USB-C and A, USB 3 speeds, and it reads both micro SD and full SD cards. And it's been very, very reliable. I actually like it more than my previous card reader model. So I just use this whenever I need to dump footage, and I've really enjoyed this one. And I think it was dirt cheap too. Here are all the portable disk drives that I use when I'm on the road. So starting with my second backup, the Xbox Seagate 4TB hard disk drive. Nice screen color, but otherwise not too spectacular. When I finish writing to the SSDs, I'll put a fresh copy on this hard disk drive. So it's definitely nice to have multiple copies, especially on the road, and two forms of media. Now you only see one USB cable here, but I do have one for each of them, plus USB-C hub adapters and a USB-C to A adapter. I find that they're a necessity with modern laptops now, but USB 3 speeds, definitely nice. Not going back to USB 2 that I dealt with in August 2015. Here's an Amazon Basics enclosure. It has a little vibration pad inside. It's built very nicely, but since these SATA SSDs don't vibrate or anything, they're actually just cosmetic at this point. I use a Samsung 870 EVO 1TB SSD. I bought a lot of these over the past couple years, and they've been very reliable. So I just make this as my secondary copy whenever I'm on the road. So the primary one that I'm going to show you very shortly is this modified Lacy Rugged SSD that I got as a gift. It originally shipped with a 500 gig SSD stock, but I put in another 1TB Samsung 870 EVO SSD in there. It's been very good overall. Now this one I used to use my old 2012 MacBook Pro because it has a Thunderbolt connector, but USB 3 is perfectly fine for this right now. So what I do is I copy everything to this SSD first in one folder. Then when I'm done, I make a copy to the second SSD and then to the hard disk drive. So this is my little workflow with it, and it can improve. I prefer to leave on my trip from my place with a full tank of gas. I prefer not to stop and get fuel first thing unless it's summertime in the morning, in which case I would prefer to do that. In the winter, I prefer to get it in the evening where it's warmer out. So I'm getting unleaded in this car, although I should be using premium for the Honda Civic Si. So I'm probably going to get premium on my next tank up in this case. It's a 12-gallon tank. It's a little smaller than my Nissan Sentra, which was 13 gallons, and I only fill up at a quarter of a tank. I never run it to empty, but that's just my personal habits going there. When I record my mileage, I usually use both trip meters. So trip A is for the month normally, whereas trip B is between every fuel up. So in this case, after a full tank of gas, I'm now getting a range of 332 miles estimated. So here at the gas station, I went ahead and reset trip B after I took a picture. And then when I get home and take a picture of trip A, I'm going to make a note of that, the fuel economy, and how far I went on the odometer. That way I can make a different count when I reset A again and make that just for the trip. And then I'll add up any other driving I do for the rest of the summer since I'll get back before the end of the month. And that just goes into my log. That's more my personal bookkeeping than anything else. You don't have to do this. Setting off from my apartment just after 6:30 a.m., this is some dashcam footage from my Insignia dashcam unit as I went on 10 west towards the western edge of Phoenix just before Loop 303 where I wanted to set up. Cropping in my dashcam footage here wouldn't make sense because the resolution is only 1080p. It would have made it extremely fuzzy, so I decided not to do that. But the dashcam footage is just for contingency when I'm not recording. So the goal here was to get to the western edge. That way I didn't have to set up at night. I would have some time to get a little breakfast, make sure everything's ready to go, clean the windshield. Then I would set up my video camera and be ready to go with a nice clean morning light right behind me on 10 West heading into California. I spent quite a bit of time in West Phoenix, more than I expected, as I had a little breakfast and I had to go to AutoZone to get my car checked real quick. I set up the tripod, and when I did a quick test from the parking lot, I felt it was not level, so I did a quick run on the freeway, and I had to review it with my iPad because I didn't have my portable monitor ready to go. If I had the cable that I needed, then I would have been able to just hook up the portable monitor directly to my camera and check it then. So I'm still working on that, but I hope to have that ready for my next road trip, because otherwise the portable monitor would be way better than just relying on the mini LCD screen. I began my full recording session after I left the western edge of Phoenix, starting west of Loop 303, which is considered new footage to me, and I just pressed forward. My video camera was running, and I would just split the clip every 15 to 20 minutes, give or take. A little less since it's at 60 megabits, so I'm not as concerned about data space, but I like to keep it consistent in that case. There's not a lot to take pictures of with the NEX7. It's very fire and forget, so I don't even have to look at it. And the video camera itself is very straightforward too, so I don't even have to think about it. I'm just holding my speed limit. My car has an auto steer lane keeping function, so that really helps me out a lot. And just cruising at 75 and maintaining my outside lane, letting cars pass, passing when needed, very easy. I did stop at a rest station just before the California-Arizona state line, and then I did stop in Blythe to have a little bit of breakfast there, which going back an hour during the winter time really threw me off a bit. And I continued on to Indio. This descent was actually really good, and my car actually held going downhill with the cruise control on, although I did learn later that it would apply a little bit of brakes in the background. So, but even if I went downhill in 6th or 5th gear, it would still maintain its speed pretty well. So cruising is nice. I made a total of 8 fuel stops on this trip. Now, I'm not going to show every single one, but this first one that I did in Indio was when I switched over to the premium grade fuel for the Honda Civic Si. I wanted to see if I'd get any performance improvements as well as fuel economy improvements. So now I need to see how it differs when I'm doing my day-to-day driving and not on the freeway all the time. But for this trip, compared to my Ledger, I was getting over 35 miles a gallon on the trip with some instantaneous numbers closer to 40. So that's actually pretty good. Now, I'm not going ham with the vehicle, but that would easily bring it down still. But this is still better than my Nissan Sentra, which I believe would hit 38 to 40. So if this one's hitting 38 to 40 without a problem with more power, I'll take it any day. After the fuel stop in Indio, I also took a quick meal break at a Taco Bell. I just had something quick because I knew I was going to be having a larger meal with one of my relatives in Fullerton a little bit later in the day, so I didn't want to eat too much. But yeah, after that, I changed the recording setting to 100 megabits, changed the battery, and I continue on. So we're continuing to the Wind Pass farm here, San Gorgonio Pass, I believe. And this is actually really cool where it expands into 8 lanes each way. I really enjoyed driving this part here, and I knew I wanted to capture it. But I was running into a time crunch here as I knew that the sun was going to set earlier, and I knew I was going to head right into the sun, so I wanted to make sure I got this at least, and I was kind of trying to make up some time here. I was going back through my recording here and I decided to add a few pieces. So one of the things to talk about when I'm taking video is when I do split the clip, even though 15 minutes is a nice round number, I try to time it with the surroundings. So in this case here, if I were to split a clip, I want to make sure that I'm doing it when the ground is flat so it doesn't appear drastic when I merge the clips later. I also try to avoid missing any signs. So it's usually right after an exit when I'll do that merge. Also, that helps me keep track of it because then I'll know an exit I pass and the exit numbers so that I can keep track of that. One of the other driving techniques that I recommend when you're doing this is making sure that you maintain a larger than usual following distance from cars in front of you without going too slow. So this is usually why I stick to the outside lane, to make sure that my view is wide open. Even though the Sony AX53 has a wide field of view that helps me avoid really close zoomed in shots, I still want to make sure that I have leeway. You want to make sure you have that following distance when you're on the freeway anyways, so having this just really ensures that you get the landscape and the footage like this you're seeing right here rather than the bumpers of cars. While I did record California 60 through that pass, it didn't turn out as well as I'd wanted to, even though it looks okay here. I had a lot of traffic problems and people passing, and then I ran into traffic on the other end of the pass leading into the duplex section of Interstate 215 in Riverside, and then I hit the sun angle when I was making the merge under the beginning of California 91 West. So I called an end to that video for that. Pulled off somewhere and took down my camera and switched back to my Dashcam, which it's kind of a shame because I really wanted to record 91 West through the canyon going into Orange County. It's really nice, but it just didn't pan out. Maybe another time. You really need to stop in the morning for that. So I spent my time with my relative in Fullerton, and then I went over, took a long way to Century City after dark to go check out Westfield Century City and go to the Razor store of all things. And I did make the drive back. Took a long path to my hotel in Pasadena, which included a route through California State Route 110, the Ario Seco at night, which was really challenging. I was going really slow on that route. A quick add to this, I was never tempted to record any night video during my time in Los Angeles or in the San Francisco Bay Area for a couple of reasons. Even though it gets darker earlier and it's an advantage to that, I find that I get tired really easily. I really need my sleep, running around 14-hour days or longer. This is a case where you want to change your schedule so that you wake up a little later in the day and then you have time at night to go take advantage of it. So LA is also known for having a lot of crazy pursuit chases, so I'm trying to avoid those shenanigans and just try to get back home safe and sound. But I really did want to try out my LED headlights and my non-tinted windshield on this car compared to my 2014 Nissan Sentra with halogens and the partially tinted windshield. If I were recording at night with the AX53, all I'd have to do is change my settings from landscape to auto scene, and then I would change the focus to spot focus and touch it to where the pavement is on the screen, 0.3 meters, and it would turn out sharp. I don't take photos at night because my camera's not good enough for that, especially with the shutter speed. Jim has a better one, was A7 III, but I'm not going for that camera for any reason. So, but yeah, that's how I would do it. One cool thing about the Holiday Inn Express I stayed at in Pasadena is that it's in front of a Tesla supercharger, and it was packed. 9 to 10 p.m. when I pulled in, there were a lot of cars. Just look at that. So I could have been doing this had I not picked the Honda Civic Si. I was very tempted to get a used Model 3. I've had good experiences with them when I took the 2 road trips to San Diego and Oregon, but I chose to do the manual because I wanted to have one more chance with it. I could always come back to a Tesla or another electric vehicle another time. So, but this one was busy, but it did clear out within about 30 to 60 minutes. And it was quiet for most of the night. I didn't hear anything when I was in my room for the night. So, but that's just a thought. But usually in this case, it's probably better to have a destination charger or charger for the morning, since it wouldn't make sense to run a supercharger when your battery's cold. So, what could have been? At my hotel in Pasadena for the night, I went ahead and started copying all the data from my cards to the SSD. So for each card, I would hook up to the card reader and then start copying to the SSD. I create a portable dump folder that I would just copy everything to right away. And my speeds were pretty good. So later on, I go through and rename my video files to a timestamp so that I can mix them all together and not get them conflicted. And also so I have an easier time identifying the files. So once everything is copied to the SSD, I'll then hook up the portable hard disk drive, the green one, and copy everything to that in one go. So I usually run into a little slowdown if I'm copying pictures and video combined. So I try to copy the videos first and then the pictures. It's not perfect, but it gets the job done. I also found an issue with trying to use both USB-C ports. So later on, I would hook up the portable disk drive to one of the USB-A ports on the side instead. And that worked a lot better. So I showed it really quickly earlier, but you can actually use an iPad or any tablet for that matter and try to review the footage on it. So in this case, I just hooked the card reader straight up to the iPad and go into the Files app, which allows me to go in and look at the videos. So I just go right into the flash drive, which is just labeled as untitled, and then you have to navigate through these folders real quick. So and I'm trying to keep my iPad at an angle so that I'm not getting a lot of reflection. But once I find the video files, and I turn the sound down there so you wouldn't hear anything, not that you're going to hear anything here, I would find the video file and then I would just select one and I could just scrub through it. I could play it at a normal speed or scrub through it, and scrubbing through is actually pretty quick, and that's what simulates a road video itself. So this is actually a good way to go. Now you can copy them if you have a USB-C hub, but I don't really find those as useful as just a plain old laptop. So that's why I just use this for viewing only. It's great when you're on the road and you want something light so you can view it immediately, but copying files, I prefer to stick with a laptop in that case. I always seem to be an early riser on vacation, so I was up and early on my next day after getting a little bit of sleep, which I really needed, and it would help me out getting ready for the next day of the trip. So I took my car after I loaded everything, went to a nearby gas station to fuel up, and then I decided to set off after doing a quick test and get going along the 101. To get there, I used Interstate 210 West to California State 134 West, which is a new route for me, and that was actually quite a nice ride. And it's Sunday morning, so traffic was very light, and we were getting going very simply. I made my way over to the 101, and that was my main objective for that. I'd be on that freeway for about 6 hours or more, and that was my main focus goal objective for this, was to get as much of the 101 as I could. There were quite a few highlights along US 101 North, which is all new to me driving this route because I've never been on it, so it was really cool. I only wish that it was a bit sunnier so I could see some nice blue contrast, but that was pretty good along the coast. The Gaviota Tunnel cut, which is going into the central part of the state, which is definitely very nice. I made some stops. I did stop in Santa Barbara for a quick stretch break, and there was some construction there. I then stopped at Ario Grande for lunch. I went to an In-N-Out and had a simple burger there. I did a fuel up and changed my memory card, switched to 60 megabits since I knew it wasn't going to be as spectacular. However, at this point, it did start to miss, so I had my dash cam up just in case I was going to get rained out entirely. I knew I was going to hit rain eventually, but I was just getting ready for whichever eventuality I hit. Once I got north of Paso Robles, this was not new territory anymore since I last did it in May 2013, but it really felt different, not just because of so much time has passed, but because it's a different perspective in the wintertime, with the rain that came through in the lush green, and also the air was not as smoggy as I remember it from. I looked back a little bit on my May 2013 video that I had, and it's definitely different. So this one's quite nice, and if time is not an issue, this is definitely worth the drive over Interstate 5, even though the Interstate 5 probably have its own set of lush green considering the winter conditions here. But otherwise, you will be going a little slower here since it's only 65 as the speed limit, and you've got cross traffic to deal with. So I did make a brief stop in King City. I was going to switch my memory cards and change the batteries, but as I was running low on time, I decided to just keep going. And I did manage to re-record US 1 North through Prudendale in that development area, which was different since the last time I was there. I did cut it close because my batteries were actually about to run out. So this is a case where I really wish I had that inverter in case. So otherwise I wouldn't have had that problem. I was actually not out of memory space. It was the battery that was a problem. Now there was supposedly a crash on the other end of the Prudendale part as you get into Gilroy, but it looks like it was just people merging. So I called a lid on the recording after that and just let my dash cam take the rest as I made my way back to where I was staying in Dublin. So the thing to note here is that this trip was mainly about taking my car out to San Francisco Bay Area, experiencing a trip with it, and visiting family during the holiday time here. This was not a primary video trip, so I didn't really go out and get a lot after Sunday. So the only day I recorded was Tuesday, and that was when I was going to meet up with a coworker for lunch in San Jose. I decided to use that morning, and also because the weather was actually clear enough because it was going to be pretty rainy all week. So Tuesday was actually a pretty good opening for me there. So I drove down from where I was staying in Dublin to San Jose, and I set up and record US 101 North because I wanted to turn that footage over since the last time I recorded that was December 2016, 9 years ago. So, and it's changed a lot since I've been there, especially up towards Mid Peninsula, getting closer towards San Mateo and heading up towards the airport. I really wanted to re-record that. I ran into a little more traffic than usual, so it wasn't as pleasant as I wanted to be, but it was at least smooth sailing. And then towards the northern, I got a little mist, but that wasn't a big deal anyway. I decided not to stop entirely, and I just took the transition ramp from 101 North to 280 South, which I've never done before, and I was actually able to record 280 South thanks to the overcast. I would never be able to do that during the winter season due to sun angle, but in this case, it was mostly okay. There was one section where a little bit of bright sunlight would kind of peek through, but it wasn't too bad overall. And then for that day, I ended up at the Micro Center in Santa Clara and checked that out real quick. So, but other than that, I didn't record much of anything during this entire week. My camera was put away. I did get some dashcam footage just for fun, but other than that, not too much here. This was primarily to go visit family members and get to experience some time with them. I even taught one of my younger relatives how to drive my manual car, so that's a first. One thing that I did do with one of my relatives before I left was check out this drive-through light show that was in Pleasanton. It was on the Alameda County Fairgrounds. So we just did a little drive-through here. You get a little music in the background and see some of the nice little artwork that they put up. It's a nice slow drive. We used my relative's SUV because it was quieter. My Honda Civic Si has a noisy aftermarket exhaust, so I didn't want to take that through. So other than that, we had a good time with this, and other than that, not too much going on here. So I left the Bay Area on Saturday, and I made the drive down US 101 South. Couldn't record it because of the sun angle mostly, and I got down to the coast a little too late, although this would have been some nice golden hour footage to make it. So, and ultimately I decided not to record for the rest of the trip, so that's kind of a bummer, but it's what it is. I enjoyed the drive a bit more. What I was trying to avoid was driving at night for several hours, and unfortunately I couldn't avoid it. And when I got down the coast, it really got dark, and driving down that was a bit eerie. But I really needed to make it to Santa Ana to my hotel for the night. So I just pushed through and got it going. And once I got into the city, I was okay. When I got into that improved 405 South section, south of the 22 and north of the 55, that was actually pretty fun and easy to drive. Actually, much better than other sections of the 405. So I'll take that any day. I stopped in Irvine to get some dinner and then went to my hotel room. And the good thing about this car, especially on the way down there, I was able to hit the NHL app on my infotainment system and listen to some games on the way down. So that really helped shake it up a little bit, and I really did enjoy that part, at least, just driving. So on the final day of the trip, I was eager to just get home and hopefully before it gets dark. So I had an intention of just going straight there as much as possible. So after I packed up, left the hotel, I fueled up my car, and this will be the last time I fuel up until I get back into the Metro Phoenix region, and I just headed to the east. I started with 55 North, which I haven't driven it much before, which it would be nice to get it on video, but I decided to just experience it for the time being. And I followed that to the 91 East, drove that before, and made a couple stops just for some breaks. And I went on 91 215 to the 10 East, which was new footage to me, up until 60 in Beaumont. So I followed that, just have a nice little cruise, and after that, I just continued forward. I did make a quick stop in Indio just to stretch, and then I went along the mountain, which I had an easier time climbing that hill leaving Indio with my Honda Civic Si. I stopped in Blythe for lunch, and then I made my way back into the Metro Phoenix region. I fueled up in Goodyear, just outside of the Metro Phoenix region, just east of the 85, and then I made my way back to my apartment by just after sunset. So it was overall a good ride. Pulling into my apartment to end the trip, I have averaged 40 miles per gallon on 2,218 miles for trip A. The personal longest record for me. So the timer is pretty cool. 47 hours, 32 minutes spent to get to know the vehicle. My first real long time spent in this vehicle since I've only driven it on weekends prior to this. So I went ahead and reset trip A, which I won't be seeing numbers like that until my next road trip. This beats my previous 2021 San Francisco Bay Area road trip by 300 miles or more, but I didn't have to travel as far, so it's a bit different. So at the end of the day, when I've compiled all of my data footage and looked at all the data, I'm just looking at the Finder windows here, and it all adds up to 945.78 gigabytes, almost a terabyte of data just on raw footage. Now, I might throw away most, if not all, of the dash cam footage. I just grabbed it just so I could have it because it records front and back. I don't need the one facing me, so that will get deleted. But the ones that matter are the road videos I took with the AX53, which adds up to 404.19 gigabytes. So that's a pretty good amount overall. When I'm all said and done, I'm going to put everything onto my 5-bay Synology NAS so that I can access it. That thing has 20 terabytes plus of data on 5 disks, so it's very nice to have. And that is how I do a journey capturing road videos for my channel. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you for listening to me ramble for so long. But I really do enjoy driving, especially with this car, and capturing the content. I'm a major tech guy as a whole. So I hope to continue this in the future, and I have many more trips hopefully coming up in the future. I'll catch you guys around. Take care. Cheers.